The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Ross Kentner, who is the mayor of Meaford and certainly no stranger to Politically Speaking. Ross, good to see you today.
Good to see you again, David.
Now, what's happening in Meaford? Well, I've got a whole list here, so that's kind of a dumb question. I'm sure you've got a list too. But let's start it off with you've got a new hire for Meaford, and that is Amy Can, who is certainly no stranger to this city.
We have, I think, been lucking out lately in terms of recruitment. We had a large, roster of candidates for our CAO position, and we, interestingly enough, chose our next door neighbor, Sean Everett. And honestly, in the short time that he's been at the helm, it has really been quite excellent. I'm, more than pleased with how things are going. His first recruit has been Amy. And as somebody who spent a lot of years at the top of an organization, you are only as good as your hires. And the better job we do of that, the more satisfaction ratepayers are going to have. And I think that Sean knows everybody, and I think it's just a really encouraging situation, because we did lose a considerable amount of time and momentum with two changes in CAOs. People want to tell me that, this is just outrageous. Well, it's just normal. I have found that many municipalities, including our near neighbors, have had lots of issues that way. And I think it's the same in the private sector, in all honesty. You have to keep trying until you find what works. And I just feel that we are. I'm kind of happy now, because the election is on the horizon, like the 4-year cycle. There's just a year to go, and I felt that we lost a lot of ground. But at this point in time, I look at all the houses being built in Meaford right at this moment. I look at some of the things that I'm especially proud of. I am cutting ribbons on new businesses every week, it seems. And I look at the Station 87 and how such a treasure as the old Meaford Fire Hall has been totally restored to its former glory, and is serving as a fantastically successful restaurant. You know what I mean? So, and the fact that we have a hotel spa coming on the water, things that we've dreamed of for years. And I only ran when I thought, first of all, I'm running out of time to work and to contribute. But beyond that, I saw that Meaford is going to grow and be successful irrespective of what I do or contribute. However, it appeared to me that the time is exactly now that good things are going to happen. And I thought, why not, go out that way? And this is what I think I'm going to have that success, simply because you cannot stop progress. And I think that we have all the right ingredients for growth, for creating jobs, for developing housing. And so I think that I'm just satisfied that I will be able to, as the saying goes, hang up my keys,
Right.
and be happy.
Well, Ross, just to be clear, you've got one more year of Politically Speaking appearances.
Yes.
You're not done yet. And to come back to the appointment, Amy Can is Director of Development Services, but she is a planner. So she heads up that important piece, I believe, in your municipality regarding planning and development. Yeah. And you mentioned the fact that people do move around. Well, Amy was in Owen Sound. She went over to Clearview Township, and now she's in Meaford, where she lives. So, at least according to the press release that I read. So, people do move around.
For sure.
That's the reality of it. And um, sometimes they move to the county, sometimes they move to other nearby municipalities.
Yes.
And
You hit the nail on the head when you said about her capacities, because uh, planning is an area that is critically important. And unfortunately, it is an area where bottlenecks can develop. And I think that it's really important that we have somebody who really knows the ropes. And yes, I'm looking forward to that. I can tell you that, a lot of things are being sorted out and fixed. And I can't actually, get down in the weeds anyway. That's not my job. And it's a smart mayor that keeps out of them, and a smart councillor who keeps out of the weeds. But I am pretty confident that we are going in the direction that I wanted to take us, and that is, to be more investment ready, and to be, uh, I wanted to see us change the culture to a little more customer oriented. And I think that is happening too. And I will say, at some time today, I'm sure we're going to discuss, uh, the large impression on Facebook that people in Meaford, and especially their council, doesn't care about, weeds on the sidewalk, or flowers not being delivered till after, the 1st of June or something. I think that we have a big municipality, and over 588 square kilometers. It's problematic when you have frost every night through June so far, except for last night, to get your flowers out and to do all these things. And now we have citizens who are volunteering, and there's nothing, better than to see people who want to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, chipping in and working, and getting their fingernails dirty. And I just want to express appreciation to all the people who have stepped up and who have taken out weeds in public places, and tried to get us so that we're ready to present to the many visitors that we anticipate coming to southern Georgian Bay this summer.
oh, absolutely, Ross. I mean, it's been a very, very cold, wet spring. Just look at your gas bill if you're heating with natural gas like I am. You'll see that. I was
Yep,
shocked.
absolutely.
I
No,
was shocked.
I have been a very crabby person over the last couple of months, and it's because we had a really hard winter, and it was followed by no spring at all. I mean, here we are, really, summer is, on the doorstep, and we didn't get any spring weather. And I spent a lot of time carting flowers and tomato plants in and out of the garage every morning and every night.
You and everybody else. I did the same, you know. Oh, we got to bring those planters in. Well, okay, that's the way it is. Uh, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's been a cold, wet spring, and let's hope. Well, as we're speaking, the weather is calling for a heat wave next week. So I suspect Canada Day will be quite hot.
I have made a pact with the powers that be that I will not complain about the heat this summer.
Ah, okay. Well, I guess you'll have to see how well you're able to fulfill that plan. But let's move on to another really interesting thing that it's, I dare say there are numerous um, constants in the conversations I have with municipal politicians, and in this area in Grey and Bruce, it's bridges. Bridges. And I know Kevin Eccles, your colleague down in West Grey, has, a pile of bridges he's complained about. I'm quite sure Grey Highlands is in the same situation, but Meaford did something about it.
Well, I'm going back. I can't take credit for this. I go back a good number of years to maybe the mid 2010s, where they started to budget every year 1% for. This is in addition to the levy, like adding to the levy 1% for roads, 1% for bridges, and ultimately we added 0.5% for facilities. And everybody knows about asset management and the need to, provide for capital for maintaining what you already have. And it's the same with the roads and the bridges. The thing about it is, we um, we would not have this beautiful area without so much pure water coursing through through the architecture of our countryside. And the pioneers, bless their hearts, not only did they clear this land, but they built bridges to ford all these streams and so forth. And pioneer days are over, if you hadn't noticed. And so now we're, many of these bridges are, about my age or
What,
older.
you talking 29, Ross?
Yeah.
Come
So
on.
a lot of these bridges are needing work, and but I want to talk a little bit, if I can, about what we call bridges 21 and 22, or the twin bridges. They're on the Chatsworth Meaford town line, which is right around Bognor, and that side road runs through a valley, and it provided, even though it was and those two bridges crossed over water that flows as you stand at um, the facility, the tourism facility at Walters Falls, and you look at the cascading water. That it ends up or on its way to Georgian Bay. It goes under those bridges and at a fast clip. And it certainly is beautiful, pure water. At the ribbon cutting on Saturday morning, we all just, gazed at the water and saw how crystalline clear it was. But anyway, we they were closed for 9 years, and in those 9 years, farmers had to tow, you know, trailer loads of bales of hay or rolls of hay, up steep hills and down steep hills. And kids on school buses had to, go up and down those hills when they were buried in snow or when they were covered in ice. And there were accidents, and there were lots of frustrations and problems. And the thing about it is, every one of these bridges started at $1 million and went up from there, 2 million, 2.5, 3 million. Um, I'm not speaking of those bridges specifically, but I think that they were estimated, the two of them were estimated at about $2.5 million. And that was quite a roadblock, even though we have been, putting money aside for the purpose of restoring bridges. So they got closed, and this was, I want to say, well, it was 9 years ago exactly. And we kept working on it and working on it, and not very much happened. And so and this is a bit of a problem, engineers largely work for engineers, not for taxpayers. And so that isn't, I don't think I'm telling tales out of school when I say that. They have standards, and they also have their reputations to protect. And so there's a lot of overbuilding, and but in the case of bridges, we just want something simpler. That's all. There has to be many ways to do some of these jobs. And so our council, really took a deep dive into it, and they established some relationships with some different providers. And it ended up, we got a company that built these two bridges and installed them for somewhere in the neighborhood of $700,000. And I think we spent another maybe two or 300,000 widening and improving the road, so that this would be a facility that would work for the farming community. $16 million worth of farm produce cross those bridges every year. So it's not that's not peanuts. And I think this should have been done long ago, but we couldn't do it without the somebody who had the know-how and the capacity to actually design and build what we needed. So when we finally got that done, we certainly, intended to have a great celebration, have an official ribbon cutting, and that all came together this past Saturday. And there were a lot of speeches, and I think the notable thing about those is that none of us on council took a lot of credit. The real heroes were the actual ratepayers who just knew how important these bridges were to the economy of the area and to the social fabric. And they just campaigned and campaigned, which kept us focused on solutions. And at the end of the day, as I said in my talk, I know the least about the technologies that are involved or how what kind of savings they made in what areas. I was trying to bring more of the stakeholders on board, and I failed miserably. Grey County disowned them, and Chatsworth didn't agree to participate in the cost of it. What I did hear on Saturday morning was that Chatsworth intends to contribute more dramatically in the upkeep now that this has been established, which we greatly appreciate. And so we also uh, uh, offered the community the opportunity to rename these bridges 21 and 22. What does that mean, with the twin bridges? So they looked at a number of alternatives, and what they came up with was the Sydenham Twin Bridges, a salute to the former Sydenham Township, which is sort of an agricultural anchor of, Sydenham and St. Vincent and Georgian Bluffs feed Owen Sound and Meaford, and so I just think that it was the right name at the right time, and we're all pretty proud of what has transpired there.
Mhm. Well, I mean, it's one of those things, dare I say, it's like the Markdale Hospital. When I started this show, one of the constant things Bill Walker and I talked about was the Markdale Hospital.
Yeah.
And when's it going to be completed, Bill? And finally, but just after it was opened after, I believe he didn't run again, and then the hospital was ready and he was there. But this is one of those things that I recall speaking to your predecessor about, because these bridges were critical then. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that means I've been on this show a long time. Uh, Almost like you in radio, Ross. But but in all seriousness, um, just to see a project from initiation through to completion, I think gives a real example of the length of time that solutions can take to these complex issues and these expensive issues. They don't happen overnight.
No. Well, the important thing that I would say is looking to the future. We now know that every bridge does not have to cost one, $2, or $3 million or more. We know that there are alternatives, and that we need to. And in this case, I think one of the things that saved money was the contractor determined that the existing bridges, their foundations were capable of supporting what was added. And so I just think that a more pragmatic approach to this whole problem. Otherwise, there will be bridges closing, and it's our goal. Like it doesn't seem to matter what part of the municipality you look at. If a bridge is there, it was put there with a good reason originally, and it's probably needed. There are a few cases where bridges only serve one farm, and that's problematic. But at the end of the day, I think the whole idea of what is the most practical solution is what we should be following, and not what is something that we know for sure will last 100 years, and suck it up another $3 million.
Well, what was the construction material made of? Was it concrete, or did it use something else?
I believe it uses some steel.
Okay.
But I'm not an expert on that. As I said, I spent all my time at Grey County Council and talking to the Chatsworth folks, and for their own good reasons, they opted out, which meant that rather than splitting it. Halves or three ways or something like that, the entire, cost, fell on the ratepayers of Meaford.
Mhm. Well, it'll be interesting to see. Ross, I suspect that neither you nor I will be around when that bridge has to be replaced again.
I can guarantee you that.
And by that time, the fund for bridges will probably not be exhausted, but with any luck, will probably be have gone increased enough to replace the bridge without any problems.
I hope so.
And who knows? Maybe there'll be some miracle material that'll um, have been invented.
Well, I know that the little bit of traveling that I've done, I have seen some amazing approaches to the problem of how to span a river or a creek or whatever. Right now, there's a lot of talk about the desire of the Meaford's Beautiful Joe Park, the people who raise funds for that, they want it to be accessible, which it really is not at this time, and so that they're promoting and have been for years a footbridge that would link Legion Park and Beautiful Joe Park. And there's a lot of talk about, by the time you put foundations on both sides and build this span, it's $3-4 million. What's it, who's going to find that kind of money? At the end of the day, I saw all kinds of bridges on my travels in other places that seemed to me to be, a solution that matched the ability to pay for it, sort of thing. And I just don't understand why we can't do more of that, and we're committed to doing that. So I'm hopeful that that bridge can be built in the next year or two, because the park is really not accessible by today's standards, and that is to say, the gradient, it's neither, like, nobody could take a walker up or down it, or a wheelchair up or down it. So really, the pedestrian bridge across the river is going to be the solution for, and even, it's worth your life to try and drive out of there, or to drive in. It's just very, very tricky access. So I think it's going to be important that we do find ways to make this a reality, this footbridge.
Well, let me write this down. We'll come back to the bridge at Beautiful Joe Park in the fall.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we're going to get it into the 2026 budget.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think the other thing is I'm trying to point the group in the direction of Community Foundation Grey Bruce, because I think that's an excellent source of funding for this type of thing. And but they have to present their business case, and
Mhm. Yeah. Well, it's absolutely fascinating because it's the never-ending story.
this might be
Infrastructure.
a good spot, if you don't mind me taking
No, go
your
ahead.
show, to inject that uh, there's quite a learning curve to being a counselor, and certainly and to being a mayor. And so I just wanted to point out, I just came from a training session this morning, which was an emergency measures organize, or at least exercise. And I've had a lot of training, and so have other members of council, and our staff had a lot of training in that area. And then Thursday, coming up at County Council, we have another training session with integrity's principles, or integrity.
Principles integrity.
Oh, thank you. Jeffrey Abrams. And this time, I understand it is, hmm, what did I hear it was going to be about? But anyway, that kind of training is has a lot to do with when are you or when are you not in conflict of interest, and things. And actually, there was an amazing amount of training early after just being elected at the county level, in terms of a lot of issues like equity and human rights and all of those things. So I just want to say, like, we're never through learning in life, and we're never really out of school. There is a lot of training goes on. I would like to see more of that training in open session because I think the public and the voters would benefit greatly from knowing what they need to know, what a counselor needs to know. It's not onerous and it's not, rocket science, but it's, you have to know what you don't know, and you have to, develop some practical experience in keeping out of the weeds, as I say.
Ross, you are absolutely right. And groups like AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, are continually running training seminars for counselors, but there's no reason why the public can't sign on to
Well,
those seminars if they're of interest.
yeah, I would like to see more of those done in open session. The argument for closed session is that sometimes people are afraid to ask what might appear to be a dumb question, and they want people to ask questions and to, make sure that they understand, the issues. But to my mind, it would be so beneficial if voters knew what some of this training involved, and I think they would not be posting on Facebook the things they do if they understood better, the constraints that counselors work under. And I just think at the end of the day that, in all honesty, I hate going into a closed session. It's extremely routine now because it's a simple fact. You can't talk about identifiable individuals. You can't reveal your negotiating position with a union. You can't tell everybody how much you would propose to sell something for or how much you would propose to pay for something. So for those reasons, it's entirely routine. Still, what I think is that wherever there's an opportunity, when something is not, giving away the store, and where something is not, so contentious that it can only be dealt with behind closed doors, for heaven's sakes, let's include people. Let's be transparent. Let's let people know what kind of issues we face, and let's, not make it a big mystery.
One of the things that the closed meetings do cover is what's called solicitor-client
Yeah,
privilege, and that's a very, very an important part because
it
it
is, and
covers
that
all
can.
of the issues that you've just named.
Yeah, the solicitor client issues, that what you're really talking about is how an organization is going to proceed in a legal sense, and like especially how are you going to avoid being sued, or how are you, who should you sue, or what, that has to be behind closed doors for sure. But to me, it would be a good thing to take the training
Mhm.
item and say, unless there's a good reason to close doors behind us, why not have this an open session?
I also believe that the ombudsman has ruled on this area of open and closed meetings because there has been, over the last 20 years, questions raised about this matter. So there's some very clear guidelines about what you can and can't do.
The thing about it is, it would be different if democracy was not under siege.
Mhm.
But really, it is. There are not enough people making themselves available as to run as counselors or to run for key positions like the mayor or the deputy because of the largely because of the commitment involved, but also and like it is just understand it. It's hard. How does a contractor like a guy who hammers nails all day, from 7 in the morning till 5 at night. How does he get to a 1 o'clock council meeting, or how can he, or she contribute? Very hard. And so, as it is, um, like we need more young people, we need more women, and also we need more education at the beginning at the public school level, which some of that is happening, and I'm so glad to see it. But there needs to be that opportunity for a larger opportunity for people to participate. And then there also needs to be less suspicion, which is generated by closed meetings and by all the various controversies that develop, it doesn't take people any time to jump to the conclusion they're all crooked or they're all on the take, and it's not true.
If they only knew. Anyway, Ross, at that point, we're going to take a break because, oh, we're not finished yet. I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking. We'll be right back.
This program is brought to you by Rogers Xfinity, connecting you to more of what you love. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
We invite you to play What's My Line?
Welcome, Mrs. Baker. Those folks over there need to guess your extraordinary occupation.
Are you an entertainer, Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Do people come to watch you perform?
Yes. Do you travel for work? Yes, I do.
Do you ever wear a special type of costume?
Yes.
Is your job, physical?
Yes, indeed.
Are you a member of a team?
Yes.
Are you a professional baseball player?
Yes, I am.
Created during the Second World War, the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League included 68 Canadians. One of its brightest stars was my mother, Saskatchewan's Mary Bonnie Baker, a pioneer for women in sports.
With Rogers TV, you can cheer on the home team from the comfort of your living room. We'll head to the rink, the field, the court, or the pitch, so you don't have to. Tune in and cheer on your local amateur athletes on Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Ross Kentner, who is the mayor of Meaford. And we've, dare I say, covered the waterfront, even though Meaford's got a large waterfront. We're dealing with a lot of stuff. But I wanted to come back to one of the things we just before the break we touched on, and that was the subject of closed meetings. And in the break, Ross made a very valid point about what actually happens in a closed meeting. When you talk in a closed meeting, Ross, can you talk about anything?
No, not at all. And what I can tell you is that whatever staff are involved in a closed meeting, and it's only the staff who are particularly concerned with the topic that's being discussed, but they are always ready to slam it to us. You are not talking about what we're in closed session to talk about. So just cut that and let's get back to what, and like I hardly notice that we're, diverging slightly from the topic. But in other words, that's a check and balance that is good to have. And it is reflective of that synergy between council and staff that is so important, and they're there to do our bidding. I know, and to affect the things that we vote to have happen. But at the end of the day, they are also there to guide us on what is practical, what is possible, what's in the budget, what isn't, and yada yada, and also to say you are not on topic anymore. You just diverged from what we are in closed session for, and we either have to, come back out into open session, or you got to, button your lip.
Very good point, because there's a lot, as you said before the break, sometimes when there is a closed meeting, people get suspicious, don't trust. But one of the roles of staff is to keep the counselor and counselors and the mayor to the point. And so you can't speak about gossip. You can't speak about your opinion that is unsubstantiated. You can only speak to the matter.
Yep.
Just like you did. Just like you did, Ross. Well, speaking of matters that are often subject, well, can be subject to both closed and open sessions, there was a very interesting change that happened recently at a Meaford Council meeting regarding the Loon Call subdivision. And I make this point because one of the things that we all get really wound up about and sometimes unfortunately confused about is the whole planning process, which is continually in flux because of provincial regulation changes. But I noticed for what had happened was that in 2021, the Loon Call subdivision offered a plan for 201 units, 32 single detached, 50 semis, 119 townhomes, and they wanted to convert 23 of the single detached units into townhouse lots, which increases the total number of units from 201 to 214. But there's a process for that, isn't there? Like, it's not, they just can't do it willy-nilly.
No, of course not. But I had no problem with this. I can tell you that the semi-detached houses they're building, they're sold long before they're finished. Not so with the single detached houses. And I think, first of all, this is a lovely piece of land not far from Georgian Bay that is being developed by Loon Call. And I just find that increasing the density there is not controversial. Everybody knows more intense density is being legislated all the time, and I think we're far under it in our municipality. Like, we're not downtown Toronto. If you look at the number of people per square mile in or kilometer in the municipality of Meaford, it's extremely low. But yeah, I'd like to just go on record. These semi-detached houses are selling in the low fours. Almost anything with four walls and a roof in the municipality of Meaford brings $500,000. So if you can buy a brand new semi-detached house in the low fours, that is amazing. And I've been in these houses, and I think I just think both of the main housing projects that we have on the go in Meaford are excellent projects. The Loon Call one, and the only thing, like, these places are just smashingly beautiful. And the only thing that you will not find in there that you find in the $1 million house is you won't find marble countertops. And you won't find, when you open the cupboard door, you won't find real wood inside. I'll tell you a little secret. We have beautiful white, wooden doors, but when you open them, that's not wood in behind there. Because how often, who inspects the inside of your kitchen cupboard? You know what I'm saying?
All right, your mother-in-law maybe.
So all I'm saying is I think this was something that we were eager to approve because. And what this tells me is, what is so important is that we really need affordable housing, and we're all hung up on this difference between affordable and attainable, and it's challenging. But all I'm saying is, the low fours is a great price point. And I will, on the south side of Highway 26 at our western gate, the Bay Bounds subdivision. I hope we're going to see shovels in the ground on houses very soon there. Those are all going to be net zero houses. And that means that you're going to be able to heat and cool your house for very little. like nothing like the bills that we get for our natural gas or oil or propane. Um, and so these there's going to be a real market for these houses. And even I will say Skydev, which is a luxury condos on the shore of Georgian Bay in downtown Meaford. People who buy those condos are going to be able to walk to the marina, walk to the restaurants. It'll be an ideal situation. And beyond that, Skydev has projects in Collingwood and Owen Sound. And in either case, to get to the water, you're going to have to cross a 4-lane highway. And then I'm not sure, well, I guess it's 4 lanes in Collingwood and 2 in Owen Sound, but I'm not sure how much further you have to walk to get to a place where you can actually access the water. In Meaford, you'll be able to go out your patio door and proceed directly to the beach. You know what I mean? It's so, and I understand these are coming in the 6s. So again, if an entry-level house is pretty much $500,000, a condo on Georgian Bay at 600,000 or 650 or 670, I think it's going to be good value. And the other thing I so like about coming back to Skydev is that now we have a Vintage Inn Spa going to be built right on the water. And when you think Vintage Inn, I think of the Prince of Wales, the Pillar and Post, Queen's Landing, some of the finest hotel spas that we have in Ontario. And I think, this will definitely bring visitor traffic to Meaford.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it'll be these developments are kind of like the coming to fruition of a lot of work. Like I said, as I said in the first half, hearing these things over the last few years, now they're coming into play. Now they're starting to be real. So be interesting to see how they play out.
I want to just mention too, Skydev, Greg Jones has told us that he would be happy to build rental housing in Meaford as well. And we need that. But I just think that some of these houses that are being built, I think are going to be highly competitive with similar properties anywhere in the southern Georgian Bay area. Highly competitive.
Right.
Which means hopefully that we can have housing for employees of our businesses, because if the employers can't get people to work for them because they can't find housing, you've got a vicious circle. And I think we are going to need more jobs and we are going to need more housing. And every municipality is doing everything they can to bend the needle on this. I think that we're very fortunate. We've got some good developers. Yes.
Yes, it's a very interesting time to be in Grey County.
It certainly is. Did I pose this question to you before? If I were to ask you, and if I have done this already and forgotten, just tell me. But of the 3 pillars, agriculture, industry, and tourism, and thinking in terms of Grey County as a whole, which is the number one economic driver?
I should know that. I should know that. Working.
You should, but take a stab.
I'm going to say it's actually agriculture.
And that is what 99% of people will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, in taking Grey County as a whole, industry is the main driver.
Mm-hmm.
By quite a bit. I might be able to tell you the percentage if you just allow me to, exit
going for your cheat sheets, are you, Ross? Now, folks, you know exactly what politicians know. They know they get their cheat sheets. There we go. There we go.
Now, this is now in reverse for me, so I can't read it, but
I can see it's 1.8 billion for manufacturing, 240 million for agriculture, and 1.19 billion for tourism, with the largest number of jobs in tourism, with 8,337. So yeah, it's a very interesting. Those are interesting numbers.
Yeah, and this is something that's another point I want to make. Um, when it comes to looking at our two-tiered system, we're always crying over the fact that we've got two tax bills to pay, one to the first tier and one to the second tier, and we're always crying about, well, we don't have much control over the upper tier, and you know how it all goes. But this is the kind of statistics that our economic development department at Grey County is producing. This comes from nowhere else. At no time does the province may be able to tell us, for example, that we have 3 million unique visitors to Grey County in a year, but they haven't been able to my knowledge, to break this down the way the county has. And it's really, I asked, who did I ask recently? Somebody for their view, I think it was Sean Everett, our new CAO, for their view on what are the big industries that we have. And it mentions down here, for example, Chapman Ice Cream is a huge industry and so successful. We've got Transcontinental, Caframo, and different ones. But his suggestion was, if you look, and this is so true, if you take a drive through the countryside and look at the farms, you will often see a large, it's not as big as the barn, but it's bigger than the driving shed, and it's a small manufacturing center of some kind, and these are all they're very, very, very prolific on Mennonite farms because this is their stock and trade. They're very diversified. And one of the most recent applications we dealt with was for the manufacture of utility trailers. As you know, you can't drive very far on any highway without trying to pass somebody with a four-door truck towing an 18-foot utility trailer.
Absolutely, yeah. All of that is true. I mean,
diversified farm use, as they call it.
Yeah, Brian Milne has told the story of doing a tour of small industries and going out to a Mennonite farm, and they may not have electricity, but by golly, there was a massive diesel generator in the back in the workshop and a state-of-the-art plasma cutter because they were doing metalworking as their secondary industry. So it's yes.
And farmers, many of our own cousins and so on are on the farm are doing similar things.
Yes.
It's because farming is a big business now, and there are small operators, but boy, they have to be pretty smart.
They do. Let me go back a little bit to something we haven't touched on in this session, but we've touched on in previous sessions, and that's, of course, this TCE stored energy project. Yeah. And the last time we talked, you were proposing a community benefits agreement. And what are the latest developments in that particular situation, because that's another big industry that will come to Grey Bruce or to Grey County.
You're very, very timely, David. On Monday night we had a public meeting on this bylaw. There were about 60 people out. There were some good presentations. My job as moderator was to stress, look at, we know a lot of people are against this project. We know there are some people who are for it, but that's not what we're here to discuss tonight. We're here to discuss this bylaw that is before us. And we want to hear your pros and cons and your questions. And I think it was a good meeting. I think that nobody leaves these meetings, totally happy. But I think that we have a clearer understanding. I'm going to tell you that from my own standpoint, I don't feel that the bylaw that we have presented is exactly what we asked for. That is, we asked staff to provide us with a bylaw that would do this, and somewhere between the communications involving our legal counsel and so forth. I think that put it another way, I think it's going to be necessary for us to either revise the bylaw significantly or perhaps shelve it and move on. It's challenging. It's a very complex issue. And let me say this, like the game or the goalposts keep moving. And right now, you've got the federal government has said, you know what? We need these major projects so much that we're just going to back off completely. And you've got the provincial government saying we're going to jump in and fill the power vacuum by killing some of the environmental protections that have been stock and trade that everybody's counted on. This creates a very difficult picture because while I've been in favor of this project for quite a long time, provided that the necessary environmental tests are passed. But if we're not going to have those environmental tests, that's concerning. I will say that one of the things that helped me develop the point of view that I have today has been the changes that TC Energy made to their initial proposal, which was pretty barbaric. It was it was not what I would call a state-of-the-art approach to it. The price tag went from maybe $2.5 billion to $6.5 billion or something of that magnitude as a result of the changes that they made, because it was crystal clear, like the citizens of the municipality of Meaford made it very clear that our environment comes first and that we are not going to tolerate any degradation of water quality and or fish habitat and it's a very long list now, and it is a mega project. A couple of things. I'm convinced personally that this is important if Ontario is going to continue to be the main engine for Canada. I think this project has a place. I've been a student, as I told some of the folks gathered to discuss Bruce C. I remember, they're now decommissioning Douglas Point, but I remember when Douglas Point was opened. I was a cub reporter and I was right there. But over those decades, we are now generating a significant amount of our electricity by nuclear. We have had an excellent experience with safety, and we've had an excellent experience with the ability to keep these reactors running and at maximum efficiency. So I think that this project is likely going to support, it sort of goes hand in hand with nuclear, because the only thing about nuclear is you cannot shut it down. You cannot reduce the amount of power you're producing just because there isn't as much demand. Anyway, it's a very, very difficult issue. I look at Saugeen Shores and I see the relationship that has developed between Bruce Nuclear and the community. And that's a very fortunate community benefiting from many amenities that have been the result of having a major player involved, and certainly challenges over the years with so much growth so fast. But at any rate, this is something that we will have to continue to, I think, evaluate more than ever. I think it is unlikely that the municipality has as much power as people think we have. But I think a majority of council feels that this project is important for the province and potentially very important for people living in Meaford in terms of the benefits that we can derive over time from it.
Now, is this project going to be affected by Bill C5, which was basically the government putting on these mega projects on a fast track, and I think it's C6 at the federal level, or it just may be that there's this list of mega projects the government wants to fast track. Do you think this will be on that list?
I don't think there's any doubt. And that's the concern. I stand in the middle. Like there are people who just say, we don't want this anyway. There's just no way we want it. And there are people who say we will be passing up a great opportunity to move into the future as far as job creation and also the kind of amenities that a municipality like Meaford may never afford. So I sort of stand in the middle ground there. I will say that it is coming down to a crunch, and it's being driven, I think, largely by the man in the White House. Canada has probably had a really worthwhile wake-up call that if we, want to be defended, we have to pony up. And if we want to, be an energy powerhouse, we've got to get past taking 10 years to make a decision, and then another 10 years to build.
What about Indigenous rights? Saugeen Ojibwe Nation has been a major part of the project, the research into the project. Are their rights going to be ignored or trampled on?
I can't tell you that, but I don't see the project going ahead without their equity involvement. And again, speaking personally, one of the motivations I have for supporting this project is that Indigenous involvement on an equity basis. Because let's face it, I don't think the Indian Act is going to change anytime soon. I think that our Indigenous population is hugely disadvantaged living under it. I think that we need to, if we're serious about truth and reconciliation, we need to enable and help them move forward. And I think that the one thing that CT Energy has done right has been to guarantee their involvement. And for that that is like another reason why I support the project, because I want to see a better, brighter future for all of the people on whose territory we live.
Sure. Well, it's an ongoing conversation, and I dare say, Ross, we when we come back in the fall, it will still be on your agenda.
I will say I was at the Canadian Club meeting in Toronto last week, where Minister Lecce unveiled his master plan for making Ontario, central to our aspirations to lead the G7 economically. And I think that there isn't any doubt in my mind that the pump storage project is incorporated in that report, and it seems to be a fit with the drive to maximize nuclear power in Ontario. So for those reasons, I think that it's going to happen.
And with that, Ross, we have to go. Thank you, as always, for the conversation, and thank you, friends, for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
Bye for now.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Good news, Rogers customers. Disney Plus is now included in select TV plans at no additional cost. With Disney Plus, you can enjoy exclusive movies and shows like Andor.
They're building a weapon.
Welcome to the rebellion. Vanderpump Villa.
I've chosen this magnificent